Hello, 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 special spirits of lights. Thank you for joining me today on story time. Oh, my goodness, I know it's been a minute, but I was happening to be answering comments on a eating video, and I had got a special spirit of lights, and I don't remember exactly the name, but I think the initials was NM, and they were saying that the eating videos, ASMR drives them nuts that they don't like it. But they watches my story time and they love my story time. And as soon as they said that, boom, all these memories from a certain period in my life showed up. Okay. And this was about 10 years ago, maybe 10 plus a tiny bit more years ago. And normally I usually be like, what happened? And when did that happen? And trying to remember how everything played out. But today, everything just kind of brushed my mind. And I was like, okay, well, y'all know spirit. I move by the spirit. When the spirit say move, I'm gone. Do you think about when people say, you know, if I could go back in time and change different things in my life, I wouldn't change a thing because it made me who I am today. Ask me that question. Yes, I would go back and I would change everything during this transition in my life. Okay? People that I met, I wouldn't think about them twice. Decisions that I made, I would definitely think twice. During that time in my life, I effed up, I messed up, I jacked up, I made some bad moves and some bad decisions. And during this transition, I met a whole bunch of different people. And during this story time, they all led up to the next person. The reason why I'm going to tell this story time is because people don't think about the things that keep happening to them over and over again. It might be different scenarios and different situations, but it's the same thing happening to you all over again. And then sometimes it's worse. Okay? I don't know if anyone else ever experienced this, but I had experienced in this particular time in my life that all of the people I met had basically almost like the same personality, the same spirit. It was like I would no longer be friends or associates with that person. Then I would meet a next person that remind me of them. They were so much alike in so many ways. And I was thinking about that. And one day, way up in the future, I started thinking about my life and how I met each person and how everything transpired. And I said, you know, I don't want to keep being in these situations, and I don't want to keep meeting the same type of spirits, and I don't want to keep getting in the same type of trouble, different situation, but same type scenario. So I thought about it. I was going in circles, and when you're making mistakes and making the wrong decision, you tend to go in circles. And then when you finally learn your lesson or figure out the decision or make the decision that you should have made, you start to move forward, and then things start to clear out your way and things start to get better for you, you know? This is what happened to me, and I'm going to share that with you. And I hope throughout this series, and the reason why I say series, because it's so much crazy crap that I will not be able to tell you all of it tonight. I know it. I'm going to try though. I will try, okay? But I can't promise you that it won't be a part 2, a part 3, a part 4, because I'm talking about 10 freaking years of bullcrap. Okay? Now, let me kind of start where I did a lollipop video where I was talking about phenomenal things that happen in your life. And I talked about when I lived in an apartment house and me and my children experienced people in our walls. Okay, that was the spooky type story, but it was true. This story is going to take place from here. Now, when I experienced that phenomenal experience, I told the story about my friend Marion. And that the story about Marion took place before the phenomenal experience. So now we're in the next transition. Y'all ready for this? Okay. Well, let me start from the beginning, because I got so much I want to tell you. Oh my God, I want to start here and I want to start here, but it's all so crazy. So the best thing to do is just start from the beginning. Okay. When I left that place and the landlord had agreed to give me my money so that I could find somewhere else to go, and he told me to empty it out, make sure it's empty, and he gave me an address to meet him at so that he can give me back my deposit and my rent. Well, I had found a place, and me and my children were going to move in the new place immediately with my rent and my deposit. When the landlord met up with me, it went from him giving me $3,000 back of my money to $300. My car was filled to the max, and my children were sitting together in the front seat. And I was standing outside his station wagon, and I was saying to him, no. You told me you was giving me back my deposit. You told me you was giving me back my rent. First mistake. I believed him when he told me that if I empty out the place immediately and he doesn't have to clean up or anything, he will give me back all my money. I truly believe this man. Big mistake. I should have made sure that the place was empty, but he should have met me at the place, and I should have showed him that it was empty, and he should have handed me my money, and then I handed him his keys. I didn't do that. I handed him his keys in the parking lot at a location that he told me to meet him at. He said, well, that's all you're going to get from me. And he started backing up and he started driving off. And I started backing up, like running with him with the car. And I was like, wait a minute, wait. Look, I'm in trouble, okay? I don't have family or friends here. Like, I seriously am not going to make it on $300. I found a place, but I depended on my money back. He said they ain't got nothing to do with me, and he proceeded to drive off, telling me to get off his car. I walked back over to my car. I couldn't even tell my kids what had just happened. They were so excited about the new place. I had told them, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go find a place, and we're going to park, and we're going to sleep there until I can figure out what to do in the morning. Junior, they had like a 24-hour like Walmarts, okay? So I parked in the busy part of the parking lot, and me and my kids prepared to basically just sit there all night. I sat up just watching people and my children. They played, they talked, and then they went to sleep. In the morning, I told my children that things didn't work out. With the new place, the person said I couldn't have it. I don't know what we was going to do. I started thinking, and basically I ran out of options. I called up to New Jersey. I talked to my mom. I talked to my mom's twin sister, and they agreed to both help each other take care of the children until I figure out how to get the business back on its feet, how to get myself up and running again, get to the point where I can get a place to stay, get my children, and be back on track. We took a road trip to New Jersey, and I let the kids, I told them that they was going to be with family for the summer. And in my mind, I said, I'm going to do everything I can to get the kids back to back in Virginia to start school before September, before school started. So in my mind, I was thinking all kinds of ideas, what I can do to get myself back on my feet. I'm not going to get into everything that happened in New Jersey, but the kids were safe. They were with family. And basically, I drove back. I drove back to Virginia from New Jersey basically the day after I dropped the kids off by myself. And the whole time I was thinking, I was praying and just trying to send out the energy because I was in dire need of money. But nothing was panning out. Nothing was working out for me. When I got back to Virginia, first thing I did was I had got a paper. I started looking for rooms to rent because basically even though I went back to Virginia, I was going back to nothing. I had nothing. Only thing I had was our things that were in storage. That was it. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew my way around Virginia. And if nothing else, I was a truck driver. If I had to go drive trucks, I would have did that, until I could figure out how to get the business back up and running. So this one particular lady called me back. And she sounds so sweet. Oh my God. I was like, oh my God, it's a godsend. Somebody called me back. She said, honey, I got a big house and I got a dog. But he old and he don't bother nobody. She said, it's mostly quiet and I will give you half price off the first month and then full price starting the next following month. And as we talked on the phone, I told her my situation. So I went to go see the room. Now, if I had money and if I wasn't in dire need of a break, I would never have lived there. Like it's not, the floors had, basically, if you wasn't looking down, your foot will go through one of the holes of the floor. Floorboards were missing, okay? Dog hair was everywhere. Everywhere. And then the house had like this stench, like an old abandoned type stench to it. Lord, what the hell? Call me back. I'm doing story time. I had to humble myself. Thank God I was able to find me a room somewhere I can stay. And the lady turned out to be a really, really nice lady. And she would come to me and she would say, she had like one bathroom that we had to share. I would use the bathroom, do whatever I had to do in it. Then I would come out and before I go to work, she said, what's the smell you got on? I like the way that smell. And I'll tell her what I got on. And she'll ask me what my lipstick got on today. Then one day she said to me, she said, you ought to try this. And I said, try what? She said, Mary Kay. She said she sells, the Mary Kay. And I thought, wow. So she said, why don't you come with me to a few of the meetings? I really wasn't interested. I'm not one of those people who gets excited about selling lipstick or makeup. I'm just not one of those people. Hate, you know, going by herself, but she thought that I would have a really, really good time if I went. So I did. I went to a couple of her Mary Kay meetups and the parties, the get-togethers, and it turned out to be nice. She asked me would I like to sell the Mary Kay, and I was completely honest with her. I told her, I said, no, I don't want to sell the Mary Kay. She says, well, it will help bring in some extra money. And once she explained to me that you have to buy the product and then you have to sell the product that you bought, I definitely couldn't be in it because I didn't have funds to like invest, you know, in hoping that I get my money back. And I told her, I said, well, you know, I applied for a job. Now, even though I had my tractor trailer license and I could drive trucks, I went and I applied for a customer service type job, was doing billing at a desk. And basically, when the next call come up, it'll be my call. Everything is on the screen, and I go from there. The building that I saw that was for rent, and I had made plans to go talk to the landlord. He said, well, if things don't work out, maybe you can think about selling the Mary Kay. And I said, okay, sure, if things don't work out. So, you know, I literally got up early in the morning and started my day. I got the job. I went to go talk to the landlord about the space that was for rent. I was so blessed. I had got a 800 square feet rental space that basically sat by itself, and it had more parking for the building than the building itself. And the landlord said that the place had been empty for a minute, and he asked me what were my goals. And I told him my experiences, what I've been through, and how I lost the last building that I had, and that I was basically starting over, but I'm not starting over as far as experience. I know how to get myself on my feet. All I need is a building. He said, I tell you what I'm going to do. He said, this is the amount of the rent. I'm going to give you 2 months rent free, and you don't have to pay the deposit until the second month. That means that basically I had 2 months to come up with the deposit, and then I had 3 months to come up with my first month rent. Oh my God. Now the building wasn't in perfect shape. Like I had to paint it myself. I had to clean it myself. The building used to be some type of graphic arts type place. They had paintings, they had materials left in the building, they had left counters. So the building was basically, it was like perfect for me to get started. When I got off of work, I immediately went to the building, and I was in there night and day cleaning it up. And I didn't get the lights on yet because I didn't have the funds or the deposit at the time to get the lights on for the building. So I worked during the light hours before it got dark. I haven't seen the lady that I rented the room from in a few days. And she said to me, she said, Spirit, you get up in the morning, you come back late at night. What's going on with you? I said, I'm working and I got myself a building. She said, what? You got a building? She said, a building for what? I said, I'm opening up my florist again. She said, oh, you didn't tell me you was a florist. Wow, congratulations. She seemed genuinely happy for me. And she says, but what can I do to help you out? And I said, well, really? And she was an older lady. In my opinion, it wasn't much she probably could do to really like help me out. You know, so I basically, I told her, I said, well, what I would like to do is use the business address for business things, but for my personal things, I would like to use this address. So if it's okay if I sometimes use this address for my business and my home address while I try to get the business right. And I told her I would like to be able, I got some things that I need to do, but I want to use her address because the store is not open yet and have money yet to get a P.O. box for my business address. And the landlord for the building had his business right next door, which was like, you know, like an alley, and then his business, which was a long, tiny, family type business. For that address, all the mail that comes to that address will come to his address unless I had a P.O. box. And one of the things for me that I learned in the past is not putting too much control in the person's hand who you're renting from. And so once I knew that my mail and stuff would go to him, I wasn't comfortable with that because I didn't want him to be all up in what's going on with me and my business, you know. So I talked to her and asked her, was it okay if I was to use her address for the business? And she told me, yeah. So I finally got to the point where working at my new place, met a guy. He was a cute young man. He had asked me out on a date. And then on this date, we were talking about what was going on with me. And I told him that I had a business and that I was trying to get it painted. And he said, I helped you paint. So he came along in the business with me and he helped me get the place painted and he helped me get the place to the point where I can basically start letting people know that I have a date that I'm going to open up. Got the place open. Then the lady that I was renting the room from, she would come down there and she would try to kind of hang around a lot, you know. So one day she showed up and she had packages and she had some books in her hand and she was like, oh, this came for you. I didn't see you yesterday and I know you say you as soon as you leave work you're here, so I figured I'd bring these books in this package to you. And I was like, oh, okay, well, thank you. She was like, yeah, I see it's from so and so. And basically, let me tell you what it was from. It was my packages from Teleflor, FTD, 1-800-Flowers, Flower Network. Those were my packages. And she said, wow, this stuff look expensive. What you gonna do with this stuff? I said, well, inside the packages, it's just books, demonstrations, instructions on basically how to get your florist to make money. And she was like, oh, okay. So, she asked me a lot of questions. I didn't see nothing to it. So, one day I came home and she said, hey, I want to talk to you for a minute. I said, okay. Well, what is it? She says, well, I was thinking maybe I can help you out with the business. Okay. Help me out how? Well, maybe I could be some type of partner or something. I said, oh no, I don't need a partner. Well, you ain't got no flowers, you ain't got no cooler, you ain't even got no product in the store. I said, yep, that's true. I'm working on it. I got some stuff in storage. I'm getting myself together and I'm going to get the business open. And she said to me, she says, well, you using my address and all of your stuff is coming to my place and I haven't asked you to pay me. I was I was baffled, like, what? She said she want me to pay her for my stuff coming to her address where I live, where I pay for a room. I said, well, no, I'm not going to pay you. I don't have no money to pay you. And she says, well, if you can't pay me, then just let me come down here and I can like answer the phones. I can do like customer service. I can try to get some business in here. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, all that sound cookie and cream, but no. I said no, because I need to do this on my own. And right now, I don't have money to pay you. She said, well, I ain't asking you to pay me. We could be like partners. So like when the money start coming in, I get half. I said, don't worry about it. I'm going to change the address. I'm not going to use your address for any of my mail no more. And I left it like that. I left it just like that. I would say a good month had passed. I said very little to her. I try not to really cross too much of a path with her. I came in late and I left early on purpose. And then one day she got up around the same time I got up, and she said, hey, I got a friend that's I want to introduce you to. You're gonna really like her. She's really smart. And I was like, oh, okay, well, why do I need to meet your friend? She says, well, she knows a lot about small businesses, And I was like, oh, okay, when you running a small businesses and you start, you need advice sometimes, and you be wanting some good advice, trying to get a small business off the ground. So I just kind of was like, yeah, okay, kind of like brushing her off a little bit. While I was working, not only did I go out a couple of times with the young man, but then I met another female who was working on the job. And this female, her name was Julia. And one day we were sitting and we were having lunch. And she said, Spirit, do you got any kids? I said, yeah, I got kids. She said, oh my God, okay. Well, how old are they? And I told her how old my kids were. And she said, oh, it would be nice if your kids and my son, and we can just go to the park, and have a good time. And I was thinking to myself, oh God, I hate when somebody bring up my kids, because now I got to tell them I don't have my kids. So I had told her, I said, look, I don't exactly have my kids with me. My kids are with family. And then she was like, why are your kids not with you? Then I had to go into the situation about, what happened to me. I'm starting over. And she was like, cool, And then what she said to me, she said, well, what you doing later on tonight? And I said, I'm not doing anything. She said, why don't you come over to my house? She invited me and the guy that, I was dating, because she was actually friends with him before I even met him. They were cool. They both had been working on that job for like 2 years. So she invited him over. She invited a couple of other people over, and we was basically going to have dinner. It's going to be a card game. We're just going to have some fun. So I was excited, and I did. I went over to her house, and oh my God, I had the best time. Then I found myself at her house like about 6 times. Like I was just hanging out with Julia. Like she started becoming like one of my good friends. Like she was like a sister, One day, we was talking. She had asked me did I want to hang out, and I had told her I couldn't hang out. I was basically looking for a place, and I'm going to go check on this place, and so that I could try to get my kids back. And she said, well, how you gonna pay for the place plus pay for the store? How you gonna wing all of that? I said, I don't know, but my kids, I don't want them in New Jersey past September, And she said, well, I tell you what, why don't you let your son and daughter come stay with me? And I was like, and she's like, yeah, they can come stay with me. And I was like, oh my God, are you serious, Julia? She was like, yeah, I'm serious, girl. They can come stay with me. And I was like, oh man. She said, yeah, so why don't you stay where you at, renting a room, and your son and daughter could share my son's room, and I will make sure they get to school in the morning. I will make sure they eat, and you can just give me, some money for food and some money to go towards like the utility bills. And I was like, oh my God, are you serious? And she was like, yes. So I was thinking, okay. So I had to change things. I decided not to go move into the new place that I found, but to go ahead and stay where I was at so that I could get the business off the ground. And then when the business started making money, I would really be able to get a really decent place for me and the kids. Made arrangements for my children to come back home to Virginia. So my mom and her husband at the time brought my children back home to Virginia, and I introduced them to Julia. They fell in love. Like, they loved Julia. And I was so freaking happy that they liked her. She was so cool. She was like the type of woman, she's like Amazon. She was really tall, kind of a big woman. And she had a Boston accent. And my kids just loved that woman. So they did good. They started going to school. Like, my life was like feeling like it was on track. Oh my God. I was just like, wow, everything is finally falling in place. And then one night, the lady that I was staying with caught me, and she was like, hey, I got a bunch of friends coming over, and I made a couple of Mary Kay sales, and I want you to be here because I was telling my friend about you, about how you started your business. I'm so proud of you, and I want you to meet her. Now, to be honest with you, I really didn't want to. But I know I was staying at her house, and I was trying to keep everything like smooth, breezy type until I can get myself together. So, yeah, she had to get together. All these women showed up, and one woman that showed up, she had an accent. And her name, I'm going to tell you her name because what this first story is mainly about. I know that I'm talking about the lady that I stayed in the house, and I'm talking about Julia. But they all plays a big part in this story. She was from the Virgin Islands. She was very fair-skinned. She had very pretty hair. Okay, so, yeah. Norma was from the Virgin Islands. She was very fair-skinned. She was a very pretty woman, had a very gorgeous accent. But she was an older woman, like the woman that I lived with. I was around 34, probably going on 35. And the woman that I lived with was around somewhere going close to 60. And Norma was in that same area as that woman, if not maybe 62. And I liked her right off the back. She was giddy, exotic. She was a very confident woman. And listening to her at the Mary Kay party made me want to kind of sell Mary Kay. I started thinking, oh shoot, maybe I can do this. You know, that's how Norma made me feel. So after the Mary Kay party was over, I noticed that Norma had stayed behind. I had found out that they weren't just business associates, and she wasn't just at the party. She was actually one of her really close friends. And while she was cleaning up and everything, she was like, yeah, she was telling me that you stay here and you rent a room from her. And I was telling her about my situation and everything. And she said, I'm planning on cooking fish. And I would love to invite you for dinner. And I'm going to have some other friends over. And I was thinking, yay, okay. So, in this period of my life, I had different type and groups of friends. And I just was feeling like, wow, this is like awesome. None of them knew each other. It was different groups, different friends. It was just nice. I loved it. So about that weekend, I decided to go show up to the invitation of dinner, and she cooked and she had friends over, and she introduced me to The Secret, which is, you know, the book The Secret, chapter 1 through 4 of The Secret in one of my vlogs, and I'll try to maybe place it like right here if you want to check it out. She introduced me to The Secret. My whole perception of life basically kind of changed. Like The Secret changed a lot of how I thought, you know. So I was grateful for that I even met her and she introduced The Secret to me. Another friend there who was watching The Secret too, and this friend introduced himself to me, and his name was Wayne. And we talked most the night, all of us. It was just fabulous. And Wayne was an older person too. And Wayne was like in his late 50s. Actually, I vibe with any group age. I would just vibe with people. So it just didn't even matter to me how old they was. But I'm just giving you the age range of how old the people were that I have met in this story. Norma became friends. So she would contact me up at my business and she would say, "Hey Spirit, how you doing?" I said, "I'm doing okay. I'm gonna bring you some lunch by." And the way she talked, it was so pretty, you know. She would, you know, and she would bring me lunch with her grandson. She had a grandson at the time that was 13 years old. And I just thought, oh my God, I was so lucky to have her as a friend. And the lady that I rented the room from was right. She was smart. She was business savvy. So sometimes I would talk to her and she would give me some really, really great advice. Particular evening, she came by and she said, "Hey, I was talking to so-and-so and she told me that how much you pay to stay with her. That's a lot, isn't it?" And I was like, at the time it was $400. And I was like, yeah, but it's cheaper than an actual apartment, an actual house. And she was like, "But you hardly never there." And I said, "Well, yeah, that's true." She said, "Well, you saw my place." She said, "You know, I got a pull-out couch. You won't have your own room or anything. But you literally can just give me $100 a month and you can stay with me." Bells went off in my head and I was like, really? I was so freaking happy. And, you know, so I went back and I told the lady that I was staying with, "Hey, your friend Norma offered me a place to stay for only $100 a month. So I'm going to go stay with her." And she was just like, "What? You're going to go stay with her?" And I was like, "Yes." I said, "Because I've been staying here with you for a minute now. It's going on 6 months. And $400 is a little steep. And if I stay with Norma, then I'm going to have enough money to go ahead and get my own place, you know. So, you know, I'm going to skedaddle." You know, basically, that's what I told her. And I thought everything would be okay. Okay, so I noticed she hadn't come by the store. I had moved out of her place and I had been staying with Norma for a couple of weeks. And let me tell you, peace. I had so much peace. Like, this woman had her grandchild living there, but he was so quiet. He was the kind of like nerdy type. He stayed in the books. He stayed on a computer. He did not bother me. And her place smelled so good. No animals. That pull-out bed was happy, okay? I didn't care that I had to get up in the morning and put all the pillows together and it turned back into the sofa for the house. I didn't care about that. I was so comfortable at night and so much in peace. And then I was telling my friend Julia how everything is working out for me now. I'm able to save some money and the kids will not have to stay with her anymore. I'm going to have my own place. Now I'm going to get into a whole lot of drama at the same time with all 3 people, okay? The lady I was staying with, Norma, and Julia. And also the young man I was dating with, Julia, my friend at work, the lady I was staying with that I rented the house room from the first time, and then Norma, her best friend that I moved in with. Okay. Go to my business one day, and I worked all day, and I noticed that the lady that I was staying with didn't bring my mail by. She didn't stop by. She haven't stopped by like in 2 weeks. So I said, oh, when I get off here, let me go by her house. I knocks on the door, and she didn't open the door. She talking to me through the door. What do you want? I said, hey, I came to get my mail. You don't live here no more. This a joke, right? She said, I appreciate it if you get off my property. I said, wait a minute. Okay, what's going on? I just want to get my mail. She was like, well, you need to have your address changed, and whatever mail came here, you're not getting it back. And I said, okay, are you upset that I moved out? I mean, I let you keep my deposit, you know. And she was like, it don't matter. I looked out for you. I gave you a place to stay when you ain't had nowhere to go. I said, okay, you didn't give me a place to stay. I rented a place to stay, and I paid for it. And she says, you got an issue because I'm not giving you no mail. I was like, what the freak? Talk to Norma. I said, Norma, you're going to have to go get my mail from your friend. She is holding my mail hostage because you gave me a place to stay and I moved out of her place. And she said, oh, don't worry about it, darling. I'm going to go talk to her. She just heated because she probably depended on that $400 a month. And even though you only giving me $100, I'm trying to help you out. I see you, a young lady, got your own business and you working and you got kids. This is what she said. She said, so that's why I helped you out. I even told her that I thought that she was charging you too much. And I said, well, at this point, I just want my mail because I had stuff that I had my business mail delivered to the house, right? So Norma comes back and says, she's not giving me your mail. So whatever you think was going to be delivered to the house, you probably need to contact the people and ask them to resend it. And you can have them resend it to my house. And I said, okay. So I contacted my bank. I contacted my credit card. I contacted my wire services. And I started having everything be basically delivered to the store address, even though it was going to the landlord. Once my mail started showing up, he literally didn't even touch it. He kind of let it sit to the side, and when I came in, he just did like that, and I just picked it up and I left, and I was saying to myself, dang, why didn't I do that the first time? Why did I have to make everything so freaking complicated to the point of always being paranoid that I made a decision to have my mail go to this woman's house thinking I ain't want nobody in my business, and now this same woman is holding my mail freaking hostage. So about a couple of weeks had passed, and I had got my billing statement, and I didn't get no money yet. I got my billing statement, and it had told me how much money that I had made for the past month. Like they hold like a net 30, like they hold a month and then you get paid. So I found out how much money I was having. So it was just like exciting, and I had enough money to start looking for a place to live. I told Julia about it, and she seemed like she was pretty happy for me. I was like, wow, I'm so excited, Julia, and everything. And she was like, I wish I could have offered you to stay here, but I always got like friends over. I got company over, and I only have like the kids' bedroom and my bed. And I told her I understood. I didn't care about none of that. I just was grateful that she let my kids stay there. So one night I called Julia and I said, hey, listen, do you want to hang out over the weekend I can bring some stuff for the kids, and then you can invite some people over and we can all hang out together. And she was like, no, I'm not gonna be able to hang out this weekend. But you know, the kids will be fine. The kids go in bed, but I'm gonna have like personal company, and you know, I ain't gonna really be able to hang out with a group of people. So I was like, oh, okay, no problem. I'll just get caught up on some paperwork. So I called my friend that I was dating, and I said, hey, you want to go to a movie? And he said, no, Julia invited me over, and she's cooking. And I said, you sure? He said, yeah. You know, she got a couple of friends from work that's going over. And so I told him, I said, oh, that's weird. She told me that she was just having a personal friend over, and she wasn't going to have like group friends over. Maybe I just wasn't invited. He said, that's strange. I don't know what's going on, but and see, and then I ain't want to be like, you know, like, but you shouldn't go, you know, because they had been friends and we wasn't like exclusive. We weren't in love. We were in like I didn't give him like a lot of my time because I was wrapped up in my business and work. He was just a friend, you know. So he was like, yeah, so when I, you know, go over there tonight, I'm gonna find out what's going on. Okay, so I didn't hear from him. When I got back to work, I noticed he was kind of quiet and he had his head down. And then Julia comes up to me. I'm going now at work, we work in cubicles, okay? And the young man that he worked across from me, so we was like eye to eye, we could see each other, so we flirted a lot at work. You know, he looking at me, I'm looking at him. This time he couldn't look at me, he was just had his head down. And you know, he even got off work early that night, and I was on my way to the lunchroom, and Julia works on another side, you know, where I didn't see her until lunchtime. And I saw her and she was like, hey, I gotta talk to you about something. And I was like, oh, okay. She was like, listen, it's okay for the kids to still stay and you still pay like the bills that you pay, but you're not gonna be able to come to the house. Okay, why? Well, you remember the girl that kind of sit like down from you? And I was like, okay. She's like, well, before you had started working with us, she kind of liked it, you know, so she liked it, the young man. I was like, okay, what that got to do with me? What's going on? And she was like, well, me and her had been friends for a couple of years, and she was kind of upset with me that me and you were friends. But I was telling her when I became your friend, I didn't know you was dating such and such, and she was upset about that. I was like, oh, so because I'm dating him, me and you can't be friends no more. Well, it's more than that. I said, okay, more than that. What is it? She was like, well, you know, I invited such and such over the other night when I was telling you I you know, wasn't I had a personal friend coming over, and I was like, yeah. She's like, well, I invited him and I invited her and I invited a friend for me, and basically we had like a double date and him and her hooked up. So I'm standing there. My lunch was ruined. Like I was just like, wait a minute, what the freak just happened? And she was like, yeah, they hooked up. They started drinking, and he was begging me not to tell you. And I said, okay. And I was like disappointed because I kind of really liked him. Like I had like a strong, like a really strong crush. He was cute. And I was thinking like, yeah, you know, as we get to know each other, maybe something can happen here, you know. And so later on that night, I didn't talk to, I think he knew that Julia told me. So when I got outside to get in my car, he blocks me in with his car. And he said, I'm not leaving until I talk to him. And he started explaining how it just happened. He didn't mean for it to happen. It just kind of happened. Julia set him up, all kind of bullcrap. So I was just like, and I was telling him, I was like, but you know what? You ain't my man. We ain't never said we go together. I don't care what you do. I start putting on a front like, it don't matter to me. In reality, I was like, but I got my car. I was calling him all kind of names. I cursed his ass out. Do you hear me? I was so freaking mad. And the young lady, she comes up to my cubicle, my desk, the next day and tells me, well, he's kind of like my best friend. I was like, okay, so? And she was like, well, he explained to me how much he liked you, and I feel like just because we hooked up, that you should still kind of talk to him because he's like my best friend. That's all. We just real cool. So you want me to still kind of talk to him while you effing him? She said, well, we just friends. We like best friends. Bye. I was looking at her. I was like, don't talk to me ever again. Don't look at me. And she was like, oh, you childish. I don't give a... Get out my face. That's how I felt about it. So, oh my God. She went back and told Julia. I'm thinking Julia gonna come in and be like, oh, Spirit, I know you upset. I know you hurt. And I didn't mean for all of this happen. She gonna come to me and tell me something. What'd you say to my friend? What'd you say to my friend? I said, I told her, don't effing talk to me again. Don't even look my way. And she was like, well, you know what? You can get your kids. Find somewhere else to stay. Your kids can stay somewhere else. You could get out. They could get out. I want them out. I knew that was it. You know, I will, after work, I go and I pick the kids up, and I went and I talked to Norma, and I told her what went down with me and Julia and the young man. Norma said, oh girl, don't worry about it. You and the kids can stay here, and they'll just sleep on the floor and stay in the front room with you. I was so relieved that everything was going to be okay. So I thought, okay. So I gets back to the business. The next day I take the kids to school. I get to the business and I get, what they call it? Oh my God. I get subpoena. What the freak is this? So I opens up the subpoena. I'm being sued. And I said, what the freak am I being sued for? I called Norma and I said, oh my God, Norma, you is not going to freaking believe this. Your freaking friend is suing me. She was like, what? She's suing you for what? It says that she's taking me to court because she said that she legally owns half my business. I owe her half of whatever I make it, and if I'm not going to give her half, that she want this certain amount of money, right? God, I'm in trouble here, you know? And then Norma comes by the business and she talks to me and she says, listen, she says, tell me everything that transpired and everything that happened. So we went through everything, you know. And I went and got legal representation, and they basically told me that, yeah, she could, from what she's saying, she could sue me because I did accommodated the business during the time that I stayed with her. I did use her address. I did talk to her a lot about the business, but it's going to be up to me to prove that I never was going into business with her. Okay? Let me tell you, I went to court 3 times. 3 times. The first time we went to court, it was basically her and her lawyer, and they did most of the talking, and basically it was scheduled for another court date. Then on the next court date, I had to come in and show all of my business paperwork, my lease, the wire services, how I received money, all kind of stuff. You know, I had to show all of that to the courts. Now, the third time I went to court, from the way that it seemed I was going to lose, I felt like, oh my God, you know, I just let this woman take my business right from underneath me. You know, I wasn't smart about things, you know, and now my business get ready to be taken. But when the judge started speaking, the judge said, there's no contract. She also had witnesses that were on her side that said I gave a verbal contract to her. I verbally said she was part of my business and that she would be handling the business part, like the paperwork and the business part of the business. And the witness that she had, I ain't never seen before. I didn't even know who that person was, okay? And when the judge started speaking, and he said he looked at all the evidence, and that the favor was for the defendant, which was me, I won. And she was so, you should have saw the look on her face. No, you should have saw the look on my face. Because I was like a sad puppy. I was scared to death. Because when I had to tell my part, I explained to the judge, yeah, I did tell her that I was having my business stuff come near. I was having my personal stuff come near. And I did kind of talk to her about my layout of my plan, how to get my business started again, what I was going to do, and how I made my money through the wire services and stuff like that. I said, but I didn't talk to her as if I was saying we're partners and you're going to be a part of this. She was just someone who gave me a room to rent. I would never thought in a million years that I would be in this court today fighting for my business. And the look on my face when the judge said the ruling for the defendant, it was just like, and then I was just looking over there at her, and she was so mad, and I was just like, and then when everybody was walking out, she was talking to other people. I ain't had nobody on my side. I was just so freaking happy. And I actually left the courtroom, and I went and picked up my kids from school early, and I took them to McDonald's, and I celebrated. I was so freaking happy. And then I was worried because now that I won, was everything gonna be okay with me and Norma? Because you know the lady that I stayed with was her best friend. And this story, you found out that yes, I got my business started again. I got a job. I moved out the rooming house into the woman's best friend house apartment, basically. And my kids were kicked out of my good friend house, which was Julia. In this story time, I was able to rent me a room to stay, but the woman that I rented the room from sued me and tried to take part of my new business that I opened up. And I ended up moving out of her house and moving into her best friend's house, who was smart, intelligent, and gave me great advice for my new business. And then my friend Julia that I met at my work where I was a bill collector turned on me, hook. Well, basically, she provided a hookup place for the guy that I had started dating and a friend of hers that she had been friends who was working on a job for a couple of years. And basically they hooked up and she could not wait to tell me. She started acting funny towards me. She started treating me mean. And when her friend approached me about the guy that I was dating to tell me they just basically F buddies. And when I went off on her, Julie basically cursed me out and threw my kids out of her house. And then I had to let my kids, I had to ask Norma, because me and my kids stay with her so much, she allowed me to make a pallet on her floor for my kids to sleep in. And the guy that I was dating basically didn't want to stop dating me, even though he done had sex with another female on the job. Awkward. Didn't want to stop being friends. Still wanted us to still try to date. Okay. So my job started becoming awkward because he would purposely take lunch when I take lunch. He would block me in at work and he would not leave me alone. So while I was staying with Norma, I started saving money and preparing myself to get my own place. So on the next part of the story, I will go into how me and Norma relationship started to progress and how my relationship with Wayne started to progress, and I'll give you a hint on that one. He had a crazy freaking wife. She was freaking nuts. Tell you what happened to the relationship with me and the young man, and I can tell you what happened to me and Julia right now. We never spoke again. I never seen her again. And I'm gonna tell you what's so crazy. The young man that I was dating called me one day and told me Julia got fired from the job and asked me, am I willing to give her a part-time job? You ain't gotta wait on the next story. Hell to no. No. Unloyal, can't be trusted. I was done with her. She threw my kids out over something that she did. You know what I'm saying? I was done with her. Done. Like that. Okay? Okay. So, all of that stuff happened during that time. Now, let me tell you guys, it gets worse. It gets worse. You know why? Because from the beginning, let's go back to the beginning when I started this story. I effed up. I jacked up. I messed up. I made bad decisions and bad choices. And I gave people a second thought. And it got me in trouble. Okay? I continue messing up and things got worse. Okay? Remember when I said in the beginning that when you messes up and things seem to keep getting worse and you keep meeting the same kind of people? In the next story, Wayne reminded me of Marion. Even though he was a dude, him and Marion had the same spirit. The same exact spirit, okay? They were just alike. And the only difference was he was a dude. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining me for story time. And I will be back with part 2. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell part 2 in just a few minutes, but I'm just going to download my film, make sure that I got it so I can edit, and then I'll be back with part 2. So stay tuned or come back. See you later.